Okay, I'm gonna do a short little video here. My name's Danny Hammond. I'm with the Foreclosure Solutions Group. Um, Mainly started out in Kansas City and still that's where my some of my offices are. And I'm down at Lake of the Ozarks right now living. I've got a project down there, a, a land development building affordable homes in the woods on two great big giant fun lakes in case you want to buy one. But I haven't been able to get it started because I keep doing this for other people, and a lot, I've got a lot riding on this because I've got two giant foreclosures, which actually neither one of them I didn't owe any money on at all. I had paid cash for $4 million worth of duplexes, my wife and we'd worked really hard to do that. And I was pretty much retired a long time ago. Now I don't think I'll ever retire. What we're going to do is talk today about is like it's really what The Big Short was about. And if you watched it and you couldn't figure it out, don't worry about it. You shouldn't be able to. I started my articles. I wrote mostly on a website, and you can go there, and all this information is there. I think it's easier to read. Some people like to hear somebody else say it. I'm anyway, so I wrote 500 and some articles um during a oh, more than 11 or 12 year period, and I still had all of those. And as I looked through them when I started to do all this again, I saw that about half of them were relevant, but it was I made I learned something new, and it was going to be too hard just to show them like that. And I had others that kind of covered it. Anyway, I ended up with 287 articles there, and you're welcome to go and look through that also. Um, um, but anyway, I always had started that with some kind of little saying or a quote from someone. It might be even, it could be from Philip Marlowe, the detective, written by Raymond Chandler, all those dime novel books, or it might be from Abraham Lincoln or Ozzy Osbourne. It just whatever hit me. And this happens to come from Raymond Chandler and Lady in the Lake in the 40s. And it's just a quote, and it's kind of what we're facing. And it says, court business is a hell of a problem. It's a good deal like politics. It asks for the highest type of men and women, and yet there's nothing in it to attract the highest type of men and women. So we have to work with what we get. That's what we're doing right this minute. Um, I also use some terms that I make up, and I use them, um, you know, I use them all the time for a reason. One is because I talk about the remainder of your debt, because when you're foreclosed on, if you have been making payments for any amount of time, and if your house is appreciated, which most houses do, and if the bank or if the lender, whoever the foreclosing party is, if they actually are owed money, they're only owed exactly what you still owe. So the amount, the face, on the amount, let's say you bought a house for $100,000 and it was 16 years ago. Um, and so it's a $116,000 note, and the judge will say that, and the bad guys say it. They keep going. It's a $116,000 note, and so what they're going to try to do is that at the foreclosure, they're going to have a bidder come and buy it, and I have a hard time, getting my clients to go to the foreclosure. You need to go to it and see what happened because there's never any money change hands. Um, and so what's really happening is it looks like somebody changes hands, and they're going to tell you that you had $100,000 note loan in 16 years ago, and they're going to tell you that you owe 196, and and everybody goes, oh my God, and so people are kind of glad to get out of it because it's too much money. They couldn't figure out what to do about it. But nobody would owe that much unless you didn't pay. And don't think that doesn't happen where somebody didn't pay from 2008 to 2023 because they didn't know who their lender was. That somewhere the note, everything got lost and they really didn't know. I had a couple of those recently. So anyway, what we're going to be talking about though is what actually created the the Wall Street meltdown. What triggered that? Why did it happen in 2008? Just like 2007 and then 2008, and then it was, off to the races. And it was because of a certain type of loan. And in The Big Short, that's what the movie's about. But it's not about them knowing what they're doing. It's about some guys that are about to make a lot of money and they know there's something wrong with it. There's the whole thing, and they can't figure it out. They can't figure it out because it's something that should never be done, and it certainly wasn't legal. Um, and the Christian Bale character, if you saw that, he was a young guy that had a hedge fund. Had drums in his office and played drums while he was thinking. He went and counted a whole bunch of what I call calendar arms. Adjustable rate mortgages have been around a long time. There's not necessarily anything wrong with them because they don't move up and down a lot, but they move with the interest rate. So you're kind of betting interest rates are going to go down, and so your payment will go down. And the bank's kind of betting the interest rates will go up, and they'll make more money off of you. You'll pay them more. But it shouldn't be something that breaks a whole country, or like, we shut down the Russian stock exchange for 7 days with the meltdown. Um, a ridiculous thing to have happened, but at least it was to the Russians. Um, but there was another arm, and by the way, from 2004 to 2012, 8 years, my interest rate constantly went down. I had a adjustable rate mortgage, an ARM, they call it, and it was tied to interest rates. Well, somewhere all these guys got the idea around the same time is that they were going to do an adjustable rate mortgage and they were going to tie it to a certain date, or I call that a date certain. And what it was for is that they were going to put people in houses they couldn't afford. And so when if if a borrower, a buyer, if they were to qualify, say for $900 a month or $1,000 a month. And in exactly 2 years, 730 days, that was going to trip up. And so what they were doing is they were like saying getting a 3% loan when the market was 7. So every month your loan short and your balance is getting bigger because you're not paying enough. It's called negative amortization. And that's a calendar arm to me. And what the Christian Bale character did was he went to Bear Stearns and he actually looked at millions of these loans, um, these arms that were tied to dates. And remember, let's just talk about like that. Somebody, what I did, I actually helped some of these people, and that helped me is when the thing blew up. But there would be, say, a young couple, and together they qualified for 8,000, or I'm sorry, $1,000 a month, and they didn't understand one thing about their paperwork. And no one does, unless you're someone like me, and I've done it all my life. Even when I was a kid, my dad got me into it. And so, you know, I at least would know if something was, remember I didn't didn't learn crime. And so I had trouble converting to these guys were cheating and lying because I didn't see why anyone would or how you could do it or who wants to go to jail. Um, so anyway, there ends up being millions of these loans out. Bear Stearns was one of the big ones. They failed. Shearson Lehman was doing them, and lots more people were doing them. And so they started in 2000. See, 5 and 6, and so these things were triggered to. They have $1,000 payment, and they are qualified for $1,000. And what they were told is that they told them your payment's going to go up, and you're going to need to take care of it, but you'll be making more money then. And also, real estate never goes down, which is kind of true if, in fact, there's nobody about to blow up the whole economy. It was always true until that happened. In fact, is now we haven't healed from what did happen. Nobody fixed it. There's nothing been fixed. It's still happening the same. There are more people contacting me about foreclosures right now than in 2012. Um, so what would happen is that at the beginning or at the time in 2007 where the 2005 loans were going to go from 1,000 a month to 1,900 a month, and remember they're only qualified for 900, which means they probably can't make a $1,900 payment. That's These people are paying. They can. They did. Um, and yet they didn't know that was coming. They were told it'd be okay, and then there was no one there to help them when it did. And it was intentional. It was intentional to take their house, away from them and go sell it. And it was like all these guys that we hear about in each of these deals, the servicer, and there's another servicer, and then there's a successor trustee. If you're in judicial, you don't have that. But all these guys are working together, and you can say, well, that sounds like conspiracy theory. And believe me, I'm the least conspiracy theory person that I've ever known. I had the Kansas City Times and the Kansas City Star. I was reading it from front to back when I was 12 years old every single day. And so I kept up with things, that way. And I always used to say that I'll believe that, if somebody saw Elvis. I'll believe you saw Elvis when it's printed in the Kansas City Star. And that's kind of how I don't get hooked on conspiracies like people do now. But this is a conspiracy, and it's the largest conspiracy in the history of the world, by far. If you think about it, if there is 30 million bad foreclosures, wrongful foreclosures, and there's three people average in a house, that's 90 million people that were thrown to the curb with all their stuff thrown to the curb, and the city saying you're going to have to move within 24 hours. And you had a lawyer and he didn't do you any good, but you spent 20,000 on him, and that's all the money that you could borrow, from relatives or yourself, or who's got it laying around. If you're on if you got $1,000 payment, you don't have 20 grand laying around, and there's no way for them to pay it off or do anything, and so they got foreclosed. Um, and I call that a calendar arm. And in other words, it's not going to go up if interest rates go up or down. It's going to happen on a certain date and a certain time. And that's what caused the meltdown, because they all came within a 2-year period, and these guys hadn't figured out, well, what were they going to do with the houses? You and it was a big mess because of that. So uh, that's something that we all, you know, uh, there were many, many, many of the people that got foreclosed on. It was on that, and in fact, everybody thought, oh, if you get it on your credit, it won't come off for 7 years, and so might. And I'd have these young people, young families, and um, you know, I was building smaller houses, and when everything blew up, realtors didn't even bother taking anybody around. So I used Craigslist and I put in there rent to own, which is not to me a correct term, but it's what people know. And I was really using contract for deeds, and I do them so that we record them. So because that can be a really bad thing if the guy doing the contract for deed borrows money against the house while you're paying it down, then you're never going to pay it off. That does happen, and people are afraid of them some because of that. But if you do it right, it's really just taking possession before you're done paying. Um, and so that's I advertised it that way, and I can remember like a real nice summer day. I had a guy and his wife, and there were three kids, uh, young, three, 3, 5, and 7, or something like that. And they're happy, and the wife's happy, but I can see the guy is worried sick, and a very young guy, and he had a good job, and he was just miserable how all this had happened to him. And I looked at him, I said, you don't know what your score is or anything, do you? He goes, no. I said, let's just go back to the office. Let's look it up. Let's don't go look at the house and get everybody. We don't want to get your wife hooked on the house and get your family hooked on the house. Let's go see what you really got. And so we go, and it turned out that I could get him financed within um, 2 months to 6 months. I didn't ever know like exactly what month, but we fixed a lot of credit. And they didn't have it. They really didn't have anything bad on their credit except for a house payment and a foreclosure. And I put them in the houses on a, and they were paying what an interest rate would be. Their rent was the same as the payment was. And I was also then, I also during that period, I would take off what they owed just as if they were making payments. Um, and and I don't think I had anybody longer than 6 months. I did like 8 or 12, 8 or 10, I think, of these, and I made people really, really happy, straighten their lives out. They didn't do it again. We did not get them an adjustable rate mortgage. We got them a fixed mortgage, 30 years, and they could handle the payment, and it was going to stay the same the whole time. Um, the problem wasn't them; it was you know, the 8 million that you know that it was so far, and they didn't find someone like me who wanted the same for the house because you know it was harder to find houses, and houses were actually going up during that period. So I just did the same. I didn't. I'm a real estate broker and a mortgage broker, and I just made what I could make. I just made the amount I said I would make and didn't take advantage. That kind of goes back to like, I don't know if that's ethically or moral on my part. It's just a good idea. As a person, you know, help these kids and, you know, people help me along the way sometimes. And that's just what people should do. And I still made, good money and did well for a lot longer than a lot of people I worked around. So the adjustable rate mortgage, is one of the things that I don't think we'll see again, but I'm not going to say we won't. And so it's something also that helps you understand that there wasn't one scam, although scams were all similar. And they became based on the um, assignment of the mortgage or deed of trust, the assignment of security instrument, and that's still being done, and it can't be done. So that's all for that right now, because I did a really long one, and if you watch that, you hate me. Um, and so I'm gonna call this one short, but this is one of the things that was happening to people when the times looked the worst, and they were the worst. So the adjustable rate mortgage, and we will talk as time goes on about things related to that, and what they would try to do. Next, what we'll talk about, what we'll start talking about is I do have ideas on how we can fund, like the advertising on YouTube and getting the advertising money by using the numbers that we should be able to have. And if we can't get them, then there's nothing I can do because you know, I gave it the office. I'm tapped out. I've got to work on real estate, and in a year or two, I could be back helping people a lot. But I can't do it now when I'm not really not working. I just don't. What I did was I had real estate left, and I'm living in a house that I had paid for in 2011, but I'm living cheaper than I've ever lived, and it's not very fun, and I'm just getting old and not having any fun. So we got to find a way to help people because there's a way to do this. One would be to just raise the ad money and then figure out how we're going to decide who, because some people can pay now, or they say they can. I'm not looking at. I'm getting the applications, and they'll say I can pay if I like it. I can pay. I'm struggling, but I would say 40 to 50% of them say I can't pay anything, and I can't do that. I have not ever taken anything like what an attorney would take. I'd be happy if I could hire two people for staff. I could do 50 people at a time. What I can't do is I can't do that myself and make the money to pay the staff. Um, I've been trying to figure that out, and I can't figure it out. And I, I've done all I can do. These last 12, I learned what I needed to learn, but some of them couldn't pay what they were hoping they could pay. And I knew there was a chance, but I really wanted to see if this worked, and it does work, what we want to do. And that'll be coming up right away. And I'm going to try to do 2 videos a day or more because I haven't done any, and I meant to do 2 a day for the last 6 months, and I didn't do hardly any. And it's critical I do these because that's the only way we'll find out if we can find a way to get a staff. If I had a staff, see, I can go ahead and do my real estate surrounding this house. All my what I hold today is all right here. So I work here, I live here. It's Lake of the Ozarks, which is one of the greatest or destination vacation places on the earth. And so I could be happy doing this and helping people if I can also get my businesses running. I've got like 3 businesses that 2 of them are new startups, and I never have started them up. I've got all the paperwork done, and I never have time. And I'm also just getting really tired. So I want to start talking about those. I want to have um, a Zoom meeting, and I'd like to have people send me questions to the email, and we'll sort the questions that are good because I want to know instead of me just starting out trying to tell everybody, you know, I'd like to know what they're thinking. I can do it faster if I can figure out what they're thinking, what they have, and if they understand it. If they don't understand it, there's where I can use my staff to do that, where I'm not trying to learn it, write it, turn it in, get the ideas. Um, but I'm not pessimistic. I was, but winning, um, when I couldn't win, I mean, when no one could win, was an odd experience, and it's made me curious. And I wasn't going to really retire anyway. Um, so we're going to work on that. And I also thought about, maybe like getting people in groups, like getting 4 people and knowing that they're all going to be kind of alike. My problem is only sorting the names and the things that my people didn't know. Like I know to get somebody to go to the recorder's office because I know there was going to be something there that's killer. And it was every one of these 11. Every one of them had something that had been recorded and that you can't use, and nobody's calling them on it. And of course, for a long time, we thought the judges were just dumb and they wouldn't listen, and they thought that borrowers were trying to get something for nothing. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't pay if you owe, but you shouldn't have your house taken by the person that you don't owe. And then that even gets worse because I don't think that anybody will have to pay because they'll never find the note. We'll never find a lender, and it'll just kind of all coast to stop if we start winning. Um, and which looks like that all the ideas we had only needed some psychology to it, to make the judge. Actually, the whole idea is to make the judge as uncomfortable as the borrower. So I I really want to start talking about that. And I've got some other things I do want to talk about. And to have meetings, or I don't, I did some real estate classes with Zoom, and it worked out pretty well. Now I can't have everybody's coming in wanting to ask the same question. Like if you got 100 people in a room, you get the same question 30 times, and I won't do that. So we're going to have to control it, but I would like to see what people want to know and what things we see the most times. Let's go over it. I hope that's going to work good. And I've got a couple more ideas, that I think that we can maybe do a lot of good for everybody. Because this is something that needs to be straightened out. I'm not proud of my country anymore. I'm not proud of my government, and that's gotten worse just lately. Um, Danny Hammond, um, Lake of the Ozarks, and I will start contacting the people that are trying to contact me. Even if I tell them I can't do anything yet, I'm going to say, hey, if you got any ideas, by the way, I'll barter, I'll trade. I would trade somebody, for work. Um, if they helped, um, if they could help put these together and get them all done, including mine. I need to do mine. I want his as bad as everybody wants theirs, and mine since 2012, and I've known what to do about it since 2017. I just didn't know what to do with the judge, but I figured that out now. All right, that's it for now. I think it's Thursday and the Friday, so we'll see if the next 3 days, if I can. I got two in today. I'm going to try to do some more videos, and in on YouTube, you can also see where the website is. You can go to the website, and that clears some more things up, and there's lots there. And I'm going to see if I can't keep helping people like I did, but the numbers are so big now that it's really kind of, you know, I'm pretty disgusted with the greed that there is in the world today. I don't see the point. Anyway, Danny Hammond, sounding off, and uh, doing I'll be doing more videos soon, and I am going to start answering comments with the videos because I think that's fun. I just have not had time, and now I do, but I'm not going to get tied up where I have no time to do anything. So thanks a lot. I hope it's interesting. If it's not, I guess I'm just talking to myself. Thanks.